And before we jump into anything, I need to ask you the existential question of the day. Reece, why do we say tuna fish, but we don't call it beef mammal or chicken bird? Huh? I need answers. Why is it tuna fish and not beef mammal or steak mammal or turkey poultry? Come on, why do we call it tuna fish? Answer down below. Okay, this is an existential question that's not yes or no. I need details. Comment below. Hey friends, welcome back to Hot News. Hope you're enjoying your life. I have some serious news that I need to talk to you about today, but since we're going to be mentioning a disease that's going around that is causing a little bit of havoc, we're likely going to get demonetized on this video. And so instead of an ad spot today, I'm going to ask that you would consider supporting us over on Floatplane, where we still continue to remain monetized because you are the people who are supporting us, not necessarily a content platform that's trying to make sure that they're controlling the narrative on what's going on. So there's that. You know, conspiracy theories abound, but I want to stay level-headed about this. However, we are likely going to get demonetized because there's a lot of tech news that's surrounding this very bad thing that's happening, and I'm going to try my best to skirt around it by not ever saying it, but YouTube still likes to make sure that I don't make money off of this. But if you consider supporting us over on Floatplane, you'll get uploads before they actually go out to the regular people. We don't also include ads there, so thank you so much for doing that. And then let's talk about the news today. We'll get to the bad news later. Let's get to the good news first, which is, Reece, have you ever wanted to run a game at 1,000 frames per second?
All the time.
All of the time. Typically, when you have high enough end hardware, usually what you're running into is not a bottleneck of your performance of your cards or your CPUs, but rather the actual game engine itself. And that's why the creators of Doom, with their id Tech 7 engine, have decided that it's enough of paltry 250 FPS caps, which was in the id Tech 6 engine, and limited the original Doom that came out in 2016. And by original, I mean remake original anyways. 250 FPS, paltry. How about 1,000 FPS in the Tech 7 engine? That's what the creators of Doom Eternal are saying that the game can run at if you have beefy enough hardware. However, there's the caveat of the fact that the highest end hardware that they could get their hands on could only run the game at 400 FPS. So this is future-proofing it until we get 1,000 hertz monitors with like 0.005 millisecond response time, and it's gonna be crazy. Obviously, there's physics behind that would make things impossible, but regardless, this is gonna make sure that Doom Eternal can continue to run on faster and faster hardware until basically the robots take over. So thank you, Bethesda. Thank you, id, for creating something that's going to be amazing.
Who are you? A human to defy our traditions.
Speaking of getting close to 1,000, Reece, how much would you spend for a metal NES?
Probably a couple $100.
$500 for Analog's Metal NES. The NT Mini Noir Edition is available over on their website for $4.99 if you want to pick it up. In case you're really, really into retro gaming and you want a high quality retro console, there you go.
I mean, it's nice, but
it looks beautiful. And
I don't know if it's $500 nice.
It is for some people, but not this guy, which is what Square Enix has said about Red 13 in Final Fantasy VII. It's beautiful, but not for you to play, because Red 13 is not going to be a playable character in the first iteration of Final Fantasy VII Remake. In case you don't remember, Final Fantasy VII Remake is an episodic journey. So the first one is just the journey through Midgar and not necessarily anything past that. And so what Square Enix has said is that Red 13 comes in too late into that first act and doesn't really impact the story. So he'll be part of your party, but you can't really control it. It's a guest character. It's a really weird thing. Anyways, one of the main staple characters from Final Fantasy VII, not going to be playable in the first iteration. It's possible that in the subsequent acts it might be happening, but we'll have to wait another 15 years to find out.
I've learned I must never give up hope. Never.
You know what hurts me, Reece?
What?
The fact that game publishers and developers are pulling their games off of GeForce Now. The latest victim is The Long Dark, because the game director behind The Long Dark came out and said, "Sorry to those who are disappointed, you can no longer play The Long Dark on GeForce Now. NVIDIA didn't ask for our permission to put the game on the platform, so we asked them to remove it. Please take your complaints to them, not us. Devs should control where their games exist." So this is highlighting the argument that's coming out with GeForce Now, which is the streaming service that allows you to use your current game libraries and play them wherever you want, because they have cloud hardware. And we've had several debacles of Activision Blizzard pulling their games. It was also Bethesda pulling their games, and only one Wolfenstein game that remained. And now The Long Dark is happening, but with some commentary by the game director. And this stirred up a lot of controversy in the subsequent tweets, with people saying both, yes, the devs should have the right to control where the games are going, and then other people saying, but it's on Steam, and the people paid for it on Steam. The devs still got their money. It's not like they're not controlling where it's going. They have a license agreement with Steam, and Nvidia is basically just giving you a virtual computer to use Steam. This is almost like an internet cafe having to like make a license agreement with the Long Dark in order to have them at their internet cafe instead of having everything that's available from a Steam launcher. So as long as you own it and you paid them already where they already got a cut of their money, then they should be able to do it. And saying that developers and publishers are just being greedy because they want a part of the streaming revenue, even though it's a virtualized cloud environment, and Nvidia specifically chose not to have a storefront to potentially not run into any of these issues. And maybe they're conflating what Stadia is with what GeForce Now is. I want to know your opinion. So leave us your thoughts about the GeForce Now stuff that's going on. Should the devs be pulling their games? Should the publishers be pulling their games? Is it something that should be happening? Or since they've already gotten a cut of the pie from the launchers themselves with Steam and the like, should they just let Nvidia have it because it's a virtualized computer? But speaking of cloud stuff, recently I'm going to talk about Stadia again. This is time for Brett's sad Stadia time. So you know how Stadia has a capture button on the controller? Well, if you took captures previously, you couldn't view it on a Chromecast or anything besides on your phone, and now you can view it besides other places on your phone. This should have been there at launch! Speaking of launches, Death Stranding's coming to PC June 2nd. Finally got a release day, and it's gonna have like a Half-Life tie-in where you get a head crab or Norman Reedus' head. There you go. In case you want Death Stranding on powerful hardware, unlock frame rate, all of that good stuff, June 2nd is when you have to wait till. Speaking of console stuff, because Death Stranding was a console exclusive, there's a tie-in. It's a good segue. There's a report coming out from an analyst saying that the Xbox Series X CPU, which is gonna be 8 cores, 16 threads, Zen 2 processing, it may only be on par with the Ryzen 5 1600. It's definitely more powerful than what's in current generation consoles. However, I doubt that's necessarily going to be true. I feel like it's going to be a little bit more powerful than that because of what we're seeing out of AMD's Ryzen mobile chips coming out, the Ryzen 7 4800s. Those are wicked powerful, even though they are lower powered because of Zen 2's IPC improvements over the original Zen. So we'll obviously have to wait. But let's talk about Intel's mobile stuff, because we've got 10th gen Comet Lake stuff. The i9-10980HK has shown up. It has high clock speeds, 3.1 gigahertz base clock, which is 30% higher than the previous generation, and it boosted up to 5.3 gigahertz on a mobile chip, and it will be overclockable. How they're doing this? No idea. No idea. It's probably going to thermal restrict itself at some point, but for benchmarking, it's going to look beautiful. Long-term use, it's going to suck. Maybe not suck a lot of juice, which is what Apple tried to prevent their iPhones from doing when they were older, because they didn't want the juice to be sucked too hard because the batteries would shut down prematurely. So what did they do? They throttled the phones and made sure that the performance wasn't good. Well, a judge came out yesterday saying that Apple will now have to pay over $500 million to settle the lawsuit over the throttled iPhones, going from the iPhone 6 all the way up to the 7 Plus. Apple admitted to this, and then they gave like discounted battery rebates, and the reasoning behind it made sense. The issue is that they were never transparent about it, and that they never gave you an option to turn it off. Throttling the phone to make sure that you still have decent battery life is a good idea as long as the users are in control of that. And now Apple is going to make sure that we feel like we're in control by paying $500 million, mostly to lawyers, and we will feel some sort of vindication when it's not going to change any of their practices. They're still a multi-billion-dollar company and have so much money in cash that this is basically like them farting out a sentence. It's ridiculous. Okay, my friends, now we've gotten to the point of the news where we're gonna get demonetized, because I'm pretty sure YouTube looks at our links and takes the URLs, and if it finds the word in the URLs, it demonetizes it for us. So I'm not gonna say the V word or the C word, okay? Not gonna say either of those. But GTC, which is NVIDIA's GPU technology conference, where we're expecting to see a lot of the next generation hardware unveiled, has been canceled as a public event and will be online only at this point. So they're just gonna live stream everything, and in case you wanna know about NVIDIA stuff, you're gonna have to check it online. You can't go there in person because of the C word, V word. And then Google has also canceled Cloud Next, its in-person meetup, and is also switching that over to online only because they don't want the public getting together and C-worded, V-wording. Terrible. And then South by Southwest, which is a technology thing that happens over in Austin, has had a couple notable cancellations, notably from Facebook and Twitter. They have dropped out. So companies dropping out because of the C word. And then there's some bad news from panel manufacturers. LCD panel manufacturers said that the C word caused their production of panels to drop 20% in February. They're only expecting a 5 to 10% loss in March. However, February is quite bad with them getting hit 20%. However, it's not all bad news because Foxconn, which is a major supplier for motherboards and chips and a whole bunch of stuff for Apple, they've said that they should be getting back on track by the end of this month, even though they had longer than expected outages and people having to be rotated out because of the C word. And then lastly, regarding the C word, Samsung has shut down their Galaxy Z Flip factory for a second time because one of their workers has to stay home from a thing and they can't go to work, and it could have potentially made it so the other people have that thing. I'm just trying to make money here, okay? But also report the news. It's a very tricky line YouTube's got me bouncing. The C word's rampaging my wallet right now. I'm not happy, I'll tell you that. But Elon Musk is not happy because he had one of his Starship rocket prototypes collapse on itself during a test. Elon Musk asks, "Where's the flex tape when you need it?" His actual response, obviously flex tape can fix that. We just need to get a whole giant roll of it. And I'm gonna roll on out of this episode of Hot News. I feel a little deflated having to talk about the news so cryptically. Cryptids are animals.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry if you guys don't understand what I'm talking about and my crypticness is too much for you. I apologize. You can check us out on Floatplane, and if we get enough supporters there, maybe I won't have to care about YouTube monetization anymore. But for right now, I need that money. I got bills to pay. I got a sick son at home who hopefully won't get the C word, because if he does, it's gonna be bad news bears because he's got an immunocompromised system. Whew. Anyways, I'm leaving now. Thank you for watching. I'm Brett. You've been filled in. I love your faces. I'll see you tomorrow.